The harder version of this problem is not a passive dependency, but an active one. Another organization's agent acting in a way that affects yours. Your agent asks theirs for a decision, a price, a verification, a clearance, and acts on the answer. Now, two autonomous systems owned by two institutions are forming part of a single outcome. The accountability question we settled earlier inside one institution now has to hold across a chain of them. When the outcome is wrong, the same temptation appears, each party pointing to another, and the same answer applies. To your customer and your regulator, your part of the outcome is yours. The chain does not dissolve your accountability. It just means you have to understand where in the chain your decision actually rests and what you are relying on others to have done well. All of this depends on something most enterprises lack across a boundary: observability. You cannot govern what you cannot see, and by default, you see very little of what a third-party agent is doing on the other side of an interface. Ecosystem observability is the work of getting enough signal across that boundary to govern your own exposure, knowing when a dependency has changed, when its behavior has shifted, when its error rate has moved, so that a change on their side becomes a signal on yours rather than a surprise in your outcomes. Without it, the first time you learn a partner's agent changed is when your own numbers move and you cannot explain why. There is a quieter, systemic version of this that a single institution can miss entirely: concentration risk. As enterprises build on the same small set of foundational models, platforms, and providers, they come to share the same dependencies and therefore the same hidden faults. A weakness in one widely used model or one widely used provider is not one enterprise's problem. It is a fault line running under many at once. A change, an outage, or a flaw upstream can move many institutions out of tolerance at the same moment, in correlated ways no single enterprise's risk model would predict, because each assumed its exposure was its own. Governing this is partly an institutional question, knowing what you depend on and how concentrated that dependence is, and partly a sector and regulatory one, because some of this risk is only visible from above the individual enterprise. For a leader, the first step is simply to know your concentrations, where many of your critical systems rest on the same external thing, so that a single upstream failure does not quietly become an enterprise-wide one. Next, the cross-border edge and trust between institutions.